Hello, and welcome to Rethinking Our History, where we seek to shed a light on events that have been forgotten and covered up, and to make us all question how much do we really know about our history? I'm Felicia.
And I'm Ian, and we are here to reveal all the sordid details of history that have been swept under the rug. Get ready to get angry, be curious, and maybe have a laugh or two as we rethink our history.
Hello, friends.
Hey guys.
Thanks for joining us for another lesson, number 12. Get the business out of the way real quick. If you found us here first and are a fan of the supernatural, give our flagship show, The Paranormal Lovers, a listen. There are almost 100 episodes about ghosts, cults, cryptids, and all kinds of spooky supernatural stuff.
It's wild.
Give us a follow on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, and Blue Sky, if you'd be so kind. You can also find videos of both shows on YouTube. To find us on any of these platforms, just search for The Paranormal Lovers in the search bar. If you would like to support the making of our shows, we have a merch shop at theparanormallovers.threadless.com. We actually have a sale going on right now. Hang on. I wrote it down somewhere. $15 t-shirts, everything on sale, and free shipping on orders over $99.
Wow.
And that will go until the 21st. We have 2 designs on that site where the proceeds going directly to hurricane recovery.
They still need it.
Oh God, it's so bad.
They still need it.
Asheville, you guys, we are almost 6 weeks out from Helene, and Asheville still does not have potable drinking water.
Yeah.
They have running water, but something about Norfolk got contaminated from the water sitting in the lines for too long. They need a lot of help, folks.
I thought I gotta get my dongle. I think I hear an echo. Sorry guys, technical difficulties.
Dongle hopper. It happens.
Did you turn your computer down?
Yes. My computer does not the speakers on my computer don't work anymore, so gotcha. Anyways, we have a Patreon at patreon.com/the paranormal lovers. There for just $5 a month, you get early access to unedited videos. Unedited? Yeah, that's right. Videos of both shows plus 2 stickers a month, one from the shop and one handmade by that guy, Ian. Also, when we hit 20 Patreons, we will be adding bi-weekly family movie nights. And I want y'all to know that while I was typing up these notes, I saw an ad for Moana 2.
Yes.
Y'all would probably get to see me cry.
Yeah.
So $5, you get to see me cry. It's fine.
And I'll probably be balling too.
And like, we watched Wolverine and Deadpool last night, and
not Mr. Ballin. Ballin crying.
Yeah, not Mr. Ballin, but hey, Mr. Ballin. We watched Wolverine and Deadpool, and y'all could have seen me cackling crying last night. So,
yeah, it was funny.
Silly movie. And finally, if you have a personal story, a topic request, or want to fight about our reviews, email us at theparanormallovers@yahoo.com. So this week and possibly next week, actually, yes, next week. This is a 2-parter. Haha.
Yay.
We're going to take a look at one of the biggest threats to the people of this land back in the 1800s. Last week, during the Trail of Tears, we touched a bit on Andrew Jackson. And this week, we are going to look more in depth at his life and legacy.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Not the bath salts.
Oh, no. You want to know what's worse?
What?
He is a Pisces.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Sir, I'm going to need you to go be born on a different time.
Go be a Scorpio, sir. Go over there.
He giving Pisces a bad name.
Yeah. Andrew Jackson was born on March 15th, 1767, in the Waxhaws region, which was named after the nation who originally lived there. This area was an area that encompassed North and South Carolina around the Charlotte area. It is not known exactly where he was born because the state lines would not be surveyed until 1770. But he said he was born in South Carolina, although both states are like, he's our son.
Yeah.
His parents were Andrew Jackson and Elizabeth Hutchinson, who were Scotch-Irish. Hang on. I gotta wet my whistle. Scotch-Irish Presbyterian colonist. They had two sons who had immigrated from Ireland, whom named Hugh and Robert, whom Elizabeth had instilled her deep hatred of the British. Scotch-Irish folks. If you don't know what the British did to them, we'll cover it at some point
Yeah.
because it was not great. The elder Andrew would die in a logging accident 3 weeks before his namesake would be born at the young age of 29. Elizabeth took her 3 boys, left their 200-acre homestead, and moved in with her sister and brother in law, the Crawfords. In his early life, his mother had hoped he might become a minister. She hoped that Andrew Jackson would become a priest and had him homeschooled by a local clergyman. He learned to read and write during this time, some maths, and a touch of Greek and Latin, but his temper got the better of him, and he would not be a good fit for the church.
Hmm.
The rest of his education, learning to hunt, farm, and shoot, all came from his uncles and older cousins. It is thought that he suffered from hypersalivation, which led to drooling from time to time. As I'm sure we all know, kids are assholes, and he was sometimes teased for this symptom.
Hmm.
This led to the small boy going out and attacking people like an animal. People said that they remember fights with him just windmilling. You ever windmilled in a fight? I have. I don't fight. Y'all don't fuck with me. I'll stab you. I don't fight. I can't fight people. I know this about myself. That's why I have long pointy swords.
Right.
And guns. As he grew up, but not out, and kept his lean frame, which made him a more even match for the older boys. But he was also tenacious, and even when he was obviously losing a fight, he would not back down. Before long, people figured out starting shit with Jackson was more trouble than it was worth.
Right.
That is actually the kind of reputation I aspire to have. Just don't fuck with her. It's not worth it.
Yeah.
During the American Revolutionary War, Andrew and both of his brothers, Hugh and Robert, served on the U.S. side. Sadly, in June of 1779, Hugh would die of heat exhaustion after the Battle of Stono Ferry at age 16. He actually fought while sick.
Jeez.
Yeah. After the Battle of Waxhaw in May of 1780, their mother encouraged her two last sons to join the militia. Andrew was only 13 years old.
Wow.
In April of 1781, Andrew and Robert were both captured by British forces who had taken a hold of a Jackson relative's home. While there, one of the officers demanded to have his shoes shine, and when Andrew refused, he struck him with his sword, cutting open his left hand and splitting his head. When Robert refused, he was also struck in the head. That's why Jackson had a scar on his head. They were sent to a POW camp in Camden, South Carolina. While there, they both became malnourished and contracted smallpox. A few months later, the boys would be released back to their mother during a prisoner exchange. Robert would die just days after getting back home, but Elizabeth was able to nurse Andrew back to health. After he was well again, Elizabeth volunteered to care for relatives who were taken prisoner on POW ships in what is now the Charleston Harbor. While she was there, she contracted cholera that would lead to her death. Andrew was a young 14 at the time and was now completely alone, all because of the British.
Wow.
What's even worse, he was not able to give his mother a proper burial as she was buried in an unmarked grave on Charlestown Neck.
Jeez.
And I didn't actually know that Jackson was from here, and I feel like that's something that I should have paid more attention to in high school.
Yeah.
Like, because I'm pretty sure they talked about it. Like, I joined middle school up here. I was in 6th grade when we lived near Raleigh. We were close to Charlotte. I don't know. You think I would have like remembered that he was like a local boy, but
right.
Not surprised.
No.
But
no, because history that we're taught in schools is like, I don't know.
Whack.
Yeah.
Whack. Y'all, I had this teacher, tangent, side quest.
They don't tell you all the grisly facts like we just went over.
It was either junior or senior year of high school. I went to a bad kid school, an alternative school, Central Haywood High School. It's a wonderful school. If that school had not been here, I would not have graduated high school.
Yeah,
Y'all, I graduated with a 3.2 GPA. I can't complain. Okay.
sure.
I had a teacher there. Her name was Mrs. Brown. Miss Brown, if you ever hear this, you're the reason this podcast exists.
Right.
Because she was like, they're not telling us the truth in these history books.
Right.
It's all a lie.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was like, Miss Brown's a little weird.
Yeah.
She's a little kooky. And now I am Miss Brown. So
Right.
love her. Anyways, all right. Back to this kid, which is sad. You know, two things can be true at the same time. Okay.
Yeah.
We can have sympathy for young Andrew because I can't imagine losing both of your brothers and your mother because of a war,
Yeah.
being kidnapped. You imagine being kidnapped at 13?
It's crazy.
Insane, right? So we can feel sad for young Andrew and hate the motherfucker for what he's going to grow up to do.
Right.
Both things can be true at the same time.
Sure.
After the war, Andrew was taken in by his uncles, but his temper led to problems and he was set out on his own. He worked as a saddler for a while, went back to school, and would also teach reading and writing to children. He spent most of his time, however, at cockfights, card games, and horse races. Oh, sorry, guys. He almost went broke betting on horse races, but was able to make one last decent size winning before he moved to Salisbury, North Carolina in 1784 and began studying law under attorney Spruce McKay. He would finish his studies under attorney John Stokes, and in September of 1787, Jackson would be admitted to the North Carolina bar at the age of 20.
Wow.
Which that's pretty damn impressive. I think now you'd be at least 23-ish before you graduated.
Yeah.
Well, I don't really know. You have to go to college and then you have to go to law school.
Yeah.
And I think it's at least like 5 or 6 years. This, they're like, just go work with this guy for a few years and you'll figure it out.
They didn't have those systems back then, huh?
They're like, you'll figure it out. Shortly after, he was appointed a prosecuting attorney in the Western District of North Carolina that would someday become the state of Tennessee. On his way to his new job, Jackson stopped in Jonesboro, where he bought his first enslaved person and got in his first duel. The duel ended with both men firing in the air. Jackson likes to duel, just FYI.
Yeah.
He's one dueling motherfucker. Jackson began his new life in the booming. This was a weird sentence for me to type. The booming frontier town of Nashville. Right? Right. The booming frontier town of Nashville. Nashville is literally Music City, USA.
No. Yeah.
To think of it as like a booming frontier town, I'm like,
I know. Trees still there.
That doesn't sound right.
Yeah.
And quickly climbed the ranks. He became a protege of William Blount, one of the quote unquote founding fathers of the U.S. In William Blount. I also had a teacher named Miss Blount. The very first day of class, she said, anyone makes fun of my last name, you will get detention. She's like,
I would have got detention so hard.
She's like, I'm a fucking cop. Don't make fun of my last name. And we said, bet. No, you wouldn't have.
Right.
No. She was like a smaller woman, but like she had that hard look to her that like, you didn't fuck with Miss Blount. In 1791, Jackson was appointed attorney general for Marrow District, and in 92, he became the judge advocate for the militia. What? He also got into stealing land from the Native Nations through the Land Grab Act of 1783 with partner and fellow lawyer John Overton. He also got involved with the interregional slave trade as a slave trader who moved slaves back and forth between Nashville and Spanish West Florida. At one point in 1788, sorry, I thought I heard a noise. Jackson was staying at the home of widow Rachel Stockley Dulson when he became friendly with her daughter Rachel Dulson Robards. Sorry. Little Rachel, I'm gonna call her Little Rachel because her mom's name's also Rachel. Little Rachel was in an unhappy marriage with Captain Lewis Robards, and the two separated in 1789. Jackson and Little Rachel moved in together after her separation, living as husband and wife. Captain Robard filed for divorce, and it was granted on the grounds of Rachel's affair in 1793. In 94, Jackson and Robard got married, and in 96, they bought their first plantation, Hunters Hill, near Nashville. The two would have no biological children, but they adopted one son and were guardians for several others, including two indigenous boys. Jackson became a member of the Democratic Republic Party. Y'all hear that again? The Democratic Republic Party. Democratic Republican Party. Which was the largest party in the area. In 1796, Jackson was elected as a delegate to the Tennessee Constitutional Convention, which was tasked with drafting the new Tennessee Constitution. Tennessee received statehood that same year, and Jackson was elected the first U.S. representative for the state of Tennessee. During his time in Congress, he fought against the Jay Treaty, which was pretty much a better revised version of the Paris Treaty. He also went about bad-mouthing Washington and alleging that he had removed other Democratic Republicans from office. He also voted for white settlers to be able to oppose Native interest within the state of Tennessee. So this guy's like, well, I'm going to get in here and just piss off everybody.
Right.
Except for the white people.
Yeah.
He was voted to the U.S. Senate in 1797, but only lasted 6 months before he retired. In 1798, Jackson was appointed as a judge to the Tennessee Superior Court by Governor John Seaver. In 1802, he was voted in as Major General of the Tennessee Militia. This vote was held by officers, and this vote was actually tied between Jackson and Seaver, but the governor of that time, Archibald Roane, voted in Jackson's favor. Not sure what went down between the two, but Jackson would later accuse Seaver of fraud and bribery, and in retaliation, Seaver called Rachel a hoe.
Them's fighting words.
I don't know why people think, like, let's talk shit about this man's wife. Why do you ever think it's a good idea to talk shit about any man's wife?
Yeah, it's not good.
This led to the two in a shootout in the streets. The two would later have a duel, but it ended with both men walking away, neither having fired a shot thanks to the intervention of some of their friends. In 1804, Jackson retired from the court and had made one bad financial move. Due to a complicated transaction, Jackson lost quite a bit of money and was forced to sell Hunter Hill. Oh my God, excuse me, folks. As well as 25,000 acres of land he had previously purchased for speculation. That is land that was purchased in hopes that the value would increase with time. He went on to buy a smaller 240-acre plantation. Just a little 240 acres, that's all. He named the Hermitage. He worked for the next few years, recouping his losses as a planter or someone who owned plantation for crops and a merchant. Over this time, his new plantation grew to over 1,000 acres, making it the largest cotton-growing plantation in the state of Tennessee. As we said earlier, Jackson was in the interregional slave trade and, of course, owned quite a few himself. In 1804, he had 9, and by the time he died, he had over 150.
Wow.
He had owned over 300 different enslaved people in his lifetime. Slaves were seen as a status symbol, and as such, that symbol had to be protected. Jackson was one who subscribed to a paternalistic ideology when it came to keeping slaves. This was a way for enslavers to feel better about keeping the enslaved as long as they treated them with humanity and took care of their basic needs, It was perfectly acceptable to keep people enslaved.
What the hell?
With that being said, he kept his enslaved people in line with severe force. For example, in an ad for a quote unquote runaway slave in 1804, Jackson offered, quote, $10 extra for every 100 lashes any person will give him, up to 300 lashes, end quote.
Jeez.
300 lashes would have killed the man.
Yeah.
In yet another duel in May of 1806, Jackson shot and killed Charles Dixon, not Dickinson, Dixon. This I literally like had to read it like 5 or 6 times.
He
Like,
killed Charles
he
Dickinson.
killed Charles Dickens.
That's horrible.
What? No, Dixon. This duel was held after 6 months of disputes between the men over payments for a horse race. But more than money, Jackson was pissed because Dixon had been going around talking shit about Rachel. You don't quit talking shit about the man's wife. During the duel, Dixon fired first, hitting Jackson in the chest, but the bullet shattered on his breastbone.
Damn.
Leaving him alive and well enough to fire a shot back at Dixon, hitting him in the chest and killing him. This death did nothing for Jackson's reputation. During the same year, former Vice President Aaron Burr was on a tour of the western U.S. when he stayed with the Jacksons at Hermitage. He was also out seeking men to join his plan to overthrow Spanish Florida. This would become known as the Burr Conspiracy. He was able to get Jackson to agree to join him in his plan, but Jackson was prepared to go even further than just Florida. In a letter to James Winchester, he stated, quote, that the United States can conquer not only Florida, but all Spanish North America, end quote. He then went about getting the Tennessee militia ready to march at a moment's notice. He agreed to also provide boats and provisions for the mission. He then wrote to President Thomas Jefferson that his militia was ready and waiting to, quote, defend the nation's honor, end quote. Makes me think of Take America Back.
Yeah.
Who the fuck are you defending the nation from? Who the fuck are you taking America back from, people? Like, y'all are silly.
Yeah.
He was also ever paranoid and went to the governor of Louisiana, William Calborn, and Tennessee Senator Daniel Smith and warned them that he believed there were traitors within the ranks of those involved within the plan. Specifically, that there were those who planned to break away from the U.S. This led to President Jefferson arresting Burr for treason. Jackson had kept a paper trail that kept him from being arrested, and so he gathered the militia to round up the conspirators. Burr would be acquitted of his charges in 1807 after Jackson testified before a grand jury that it was James Wilkinson who was the treasoner, not Burr. I want you to know I'm only halfway done with my notes. Like,
wow,
what a life he's lived, and we're only at 1812.
Right.
Like, I'm exhausted. In June of 1812, the U.S. declared war on the UK in the War of 1812. This war was waged for a few reasons. 1, to combat the quote-unquote Indian problem in the South. 2, to undermine the support the British were giving to the natives. And 3, to take Florida from Spain. While Jackson was immediately willing to gather troops for the war, he was not called upon until the U.S. had lost several battles in the Northwest. Oh, God. Sorry, folks. January of 1813 saw Jackson gather over 2,000 volunteers and set off to New Orleans to defend against British attacks. When they arrived at Natchez, they were met by General Wilkinson, the one and same man that Jackson had accused of treason against the United States was now the commander at New Orleans. I guess Wilkinson did not want to have to worry about a possible duel with Jackson, so a few days later, Jackson received a letter from the Secretary of War, John Armstrong, telling him his volunteers were not needed and ordered Jackson to hand over all provisions to Wilkinson and disband his troop. Jackson refused and set out on a long hike back to Nashville with his men. This journey would earn him the nickname Hickory, for he was as strong as an old hickory. Gag. It did not take long for Jackson to get in a scuffle once he was back in Nashville. He and one of his colonels, John Coffey, got into a fight with brother Jesse and Thomas Hart Benton. No one died, but Jackson took a shot to the shoulder that almost killed him. Not long after, the Creek War had been waging, and in August of 1813, the Fort Mims Massacre happened. After the Red Sticks, a faction of the Creek Confederacy who had allied with Tecumseh, a Shawnee chief allied with the British, were ambushed and attacked by U.S. militia at Burnt Corn Creek. They retaliated. They attacked Fort Mims and killed around 250 soldiers and civilians within the fort. Jackson was sent to deal with the Red Sticks. In October, he left Fayetteville, Tennessee, with 2,500 militia and headed to Fort Strother, where he established a supply base. He sent Coffee and his cavalry ahead of the main force to attack Red Stick villages and steal supplies. On November 3rd, Coffee won a battle against a band of Red Sticks in the Battle of Tallushahachie, and a month later, Jackson had his own victory at the Battle of Talladega. And no, Will Ferrell was not there. Come January of 1814, Jackson's troops had dropped around 1,000. This was due in part to deserters and men whose enlistment had run out. So when the Red Sticks attacked at the Battle of Imukfa and Inotakhopo Creek, Jackson was forced to retreat back to Fort Strother. Thankfully for Jackson, the 39th U.S. Infantry Regiment showed up, and he was able to recruit more men. With 3,000 men, including allied men from the Cherokee, Choctaw, and Creek Nation, Jackson attacked a Red Stick fort at Horseshoe Bend on the Tallapoosa River. There were only about 1,000 men manning the fort, and they were massacred in the battle. Jackson and his troops took at least 300 women and children and handed many of them over to their allied nations. After this, the Red Sticks could hardly stand against Jackson's campaign to decimate every Red Stick community he came across. Though some people were able to escape to East Florida, probably to go join them Seminoles,
Right.
the attacks would only stop when the Red Stick leader, William Weatherford or Red Eagle, surrendered to Jackson. So he's just out here fighting people. He's just fucking people up. And just like when he was a kid and he would get in a fight in school and he wouldn't back down, he's like, okay, so my men deserted and y'all keep attacking, but I'm just going to get some more men and we're going to come back.
Right.
He's just as tenacious in war as he was in a schoolyard fight.
Yeah. Relentless, huh?
Relentless. Just dogged. And I'm like, I think you got dropped on your head as a baby. I think he got dropped on his head as a baby. He honestly, that dude that kidnapped him, when he hit him in the head,
Right.
he hit him hard enough to split his scalp open.
Mm-hmm.
He could have given him some frontal lobe damage.
I'm sure.
And anyone who likes true crime knows traumatic brain injuries make people go a little.
Yeah.
So Jackson was made a brigadier general in the U.S. Army on June 18th, or on June 8th, and on the 18th, he was made a brevet major general. This gave him command of the 7th Military District that included Tennessee, Louisiana, Mississippi Territory, and the Muskogee Creek Confederacy. Jackson then got approval from President James Madison to impose the Treaty of Fort Jackson. As we discussed last week, this forced them to give up 23 million acres of land and relocate to the new Indian Territory. And if you don't know what that is, go listen to episode 11, The Trails of Tears.
Yeah.
Jackson then set his sights on Spain and Britain. He stationed his troops at Mobile, Alabama in August. He then went about accusing the governor of West Florida, Mateo Manrique, of aiding the Red Sticks in the war against the U.S. and threatened to attack. Mateo then invited the British to port in Pensacola to help defend against Jackson, which to the U.S. broke Spain's neutrality in the war. The British then attempted to capture Mobile, but were defeated at Fort Bower. Bower. We're going to go Bower. Jackson then invaded Florida, and at the Battle of Pensacola on November 7th, he defeated both the Spanish and the British. And we're back.
Yeah, we're back.
Okay.
Sorry,
Everybody's
guys.
like, what? Yeah, we had to go see what the hell the dog was barking at.
Yeah.
All right. The Spanish surrendered to his forces while the British withdrew from the area. A week later, Jackson got word that the British were planning to attack New Orleans. Jackson set out from Pensacola, stopping in Mobile to strengthen his numbers, then marched on to NOLA. New Orleans was the gateway to the lower Mississippi River in control of the West, and they could not let that fall into British control. On December 1st, 1814, Jackson and his troops arrived at New Orleans. He immediately was suspicious of the Creole and Spanish immigrants and instituted martial law. He bolstered his forces further by forming an alliance with some of Jean Lafitte's smugglers, aka pirates.
Nice.
He formed a motherfucking alliance with pirates, Phil. Goddamn.
Right on.
He also gathered
Like me some
freemen.
pirates.
Right. We love pirates. He also gathered freemen and creekmen, and paying them the same as their white counterparts, he was able to gather a force of over 5,000 men to beat the British forces. In mid-December, Admiral Alexander Cochrane and General Edward Pakenham arrived in New Orleans with 10,000 soldiers, many of whom were veterans of the Napoleonic Wars. Side quest. One of Napoleon's brothers, he had 4, I don't remember which one, allegedly saw a Jersey Devil once.
Nice.
Just fun fact. I think it was an episode of Sinisterhood maybe covered it.
Yeah.
The Jersey Devil, and they were like, okay, so yeah, Napoleon Bonaparte, but did you know that his brother saw a Jersey Devil? Yeah, that's what I want to hear about at Thanksgiving. I don't give a shit what Bonaparte did.
Right.
Jackson set up a fortified position along the east bank of the Mississippi River to block the British troops' path. On January 8th, the British forces launched a frontal assault, which led to many of their men being slaughtered. When you're in a battle, the one on the higher ground typically has the upper hand, literally. The U.S. troops were protected by the parapet of the structure Jackson had them build and allowed them unlimited access to rain hell down on the opposing forces. The U.S. troops lost 60 men during this battle, while British forces had a loss of over 2,000 men.
Wow.
So when I say they rained hell down on the opposing forces, they rained hell down on the opposing forces.
Yeah.
A few weeks later, the British forces left New Orleans, but Jackson was not ready to relax. He kept martial law in place throughout the city, using his militia to enforce his orders. He took things a step further when a few of the Creole militiamen went to a French embassy and registered as French citizens. They attempted to use their newfound citizenship to be discharged from the militia, which I'm assuming made Jackson mad as hell. I say this because due to this request, Jackson ordered all French citizens to leave the city within 3 days.
Jeez.
He's being a little bitch.
Yeah.
And think about that too. This is New Orleans.
Yeah.
We were just talking about Creole people
Right.
and the Rougarou. Like, you wouldn't have Creole people without French people.
Nope.
You gotta have the French people to have the Creole people down there in the New Orleans.
Oh, Gambit.
Oh my God. Y'all, I tell you what, I've had a crush on Channing Tatum since I was like 16. And when he walked in as Gambit, I was like, oh goddamn. And then he started talking in that Creole accent, and I went,
Gambit was always real suave.
Gambit was so good. And I was telling Ian, I feel like that's one of the first roles I've really seen Channing Tatum really play it up and actually really act really good.
Yeah.
Because in my opinion, he always feels real awkward.
Yeah.
Like, unless he's literally taking his clothes off dancing. He was not awkward in that movie.
Right.
At least not when he was taking his clothes off dancing. But something about Gambit, he was just all like, he got into it. And I was just like, yes.
Some suave roles. Like, he's good at being suave.
I would also like to know who his voice coach is, like Deadpool said. Sorry about the sorry about the spoilers. Sorry about all the spoilers if you haven't seen the movie yet. Shit happens. It's on Disney. What are you doing? Go watch it.
Yeah.
To fan the flames of mistrust that citizens of the city had for Jackson, he arrested Louis Lear. That's not how that's pronounced, but that's how I said it. A member of the Louisiana legislature for writing a newspaper article criticizing his continuation of martial law after the British left. So let me say that again. Jackson arrested a member of the Louisiana legislature for a newspaper article criticizing his use of martial law. Then, after the U.S. District Court Judge Dominic A. Hall signed a writ of habeas corpus for Lewis's release, Jackson had Hall arrested.
And martial law is so dangerous.
It's not great.
It is. No, it's not good.
But I feel like Oprah. You get arrested and you get arrested and you get arrested. Like, dude, calm the fuck down. This is also one of those things where, like, I can kind of see, like, he had to be on cocaine or something.
Right.
Like, he's just fucking
angry.
He's angry. He's fucking paranoid.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is more than anything. I think he's fucking paranoid.
Right.
But
paranoid power.
Yeah. He would not calm down at all. Once he got a military court order to release Lewis, but he ignored it.
He just said no?
Yeah. I don't even know if he said no. He was just like, meh.
He's like, nope, not going to release this guy.
He then kicked Hall out of the city. He kicked a U.S. District Court judge out of the city. All of these shenanigans left a bad taste in the mouths of New Orleans.
Sure.
New Orleans, long after he lifted martial law after the signing of the Treaty of Ghent.
I bet they were all like, God dang, I'm glad he's fucking gone.
They're like, where's Gambit when you need him? Goddamn, because this motherfucker is... But to the rest of the country, Andrew Jackson was a goddamn hero.
Mm-hmm.
On February 27th, 1815, he was given the thanks of Congress and awarded a Congressional Gold Medal. And since the Battle of New Orleans happened after the treaty was signed, it helped the U.S. keep control of the area without fear of attack from European forces. It also allowed the government to ignore one little part of the treaty, the part where they were supposed to return the lands to the indigenous people that were taken in the Treaty of Fort Jackson. Because, you know, they're not going to do that.
It's horrible.
And they still won't do it. And they're still trying to do shady shit. I'm still pissed. Like, y'all need to go check out Indigenous Tales and look into, like, the Shumash fighting for...
their land over there.
Excuse me.
Isn't it Alcatraz?
No, it's not Alcatraz. It's Morro Bay.
Yeah.
Because the government's like, okay, well, you can have your ancestral lands, but we want the wind rights so we can put in windmills in the ocean, which is going to fuck up the ecosystem of the ocean.
Yeah.
Like,
it's like the wrong place to put windmills.
Just stop.
Yeah.
Just stop.
America was never great.
America's never been great.
If you've been listening to our history tales, they haven't been great since they started. So,
no, it hasn't been great, and we are
it's all bloody and lies and
if you listen to the history podcast, we do blame white people a lot, but we also blame everybody else because we have all strive to, I don't know, fit in with the white people. Like, we want them to like us, and we want to make sure. And I think on one hand, it's a lot about safety.
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot about safety. But like,
Trying to stay alive. People trying to stay alive.
we're trying to stay alive. We don't want to have to fight. But the thing is, at this point, we're fucking tired, and we're to the point we're like, okay, we're just gonna shoot you.
Yeah.
Like, we're tired of it. We're just gonna shoot you. After his victories, Jackson stayed in control of the military in the southern U.S. He made his headquarters at his plantation Hermitage, and from there he continued to attack native communities to take their land and force them out west. Well, I'm sure he would have rather just killed them all, but that would have been a bad look after all the stunts he's pulled thus far. Between 1816 to 1820, Jackson signed 5 treaties with the Choctaw, Cherokee, and Chickasaw nations, some of which we discussed last week, leading to the forced removal of thousands of people from their ancestral homelands, and millions of acres of land being stolen by the federal government. The treaties were not great, folks.
No.
I think somebody said one point the treaties were the trick. It was like a Halloween joke.
Yeah, because they were signed by unofficial leaders. Like,
some of them
they
were
just-
signed by unofficial leaders, but some of them they just didn't hold to their
Yeah.
promises.
Yeah, they broke them like
They were
like
like,
they were nothing.
yeah, they were like, okay, well, we'll do this. You guys say you're going to do this. And then the American government was like, JK.
Yeah.
Bye. No, we're not JKing about taking your land. We're still going to take your land.
And
We're
then-
just not going to do the rest of that stuff.
And then we're going to teach people that you just disappeared.
Yeah, and then we're going to teach everyone about the vanishing Indian myth, which you guys need to go listen to last week about. Kind of made me mad last night when we were watching the boxing match, because here comes Mario Barrios. I love his name, Mario Barrios. He's a fucking Aztec.
Yep.
It was like, the Aztec are not extinct people.
No.
They are alive. And they're bringing back their culture. If y'all didn't see that fucking walk-in, that was the best part of that whole damn, what was it, like 4 hours, 5 hours we watched last night?
Yeah.
Jackson would catch wind of a problem at Prospect Bluff. It had been given the name, quote, the Negro Fort, end quote, and housed former British soldiers, escaped enslaved people, and various people from different native nations. Sorry, guys, I'm going to check this. Okay. White people in the area were concerned with the mix of people that had made this fort their home, concerned for the property rights of the enslaved people that had run away. That is.
Right.
Due to the number of enslaved people that were drawn to that area.
Yeah.
They were even more concerned that it could be a possible source for an insurrection of enslaved people, and I'm sure this was a concern for slaver trader Jackson. He ordered Colonel Duncan Clinch to take the fort. In July of 1816, Clinch did just that, killing many of the men there. Some were able to flee into the wilderness of Florida, probably also going to join the Seminoles, while some were forced back into slavery. During this time, white people in the area were constantly dealing with attacks from the Seminole Nation. And I gotta say, the more and more that I do research in this show, I love me some fucking Knowles, man.
Yeah.
Fucking love me some Seminoles, okay?
They put up a fight, huh?
Fuck them up, motherfuckers. Like, these guys are not going to back down and would die before they ever gave in. And
Yeah.
I'm not shaming or blaming those who did. We never know what we will do to survive. And again, they thought that these people were going to keep their promises and treat them right, and they didn't.
Yeah.
Okay. I just love a community that takes no shit. Like that tribe on that island that kills anybody that comes up to their island.
Yep.
Love them, love them, love them.
Right.
But try as they might, when Jackson was ordered to launch an attack against the nation by Secretary of War John C. Calhoun, he was set out to not only do that, but to take Florida for the states once and for all. When he invaded the state, he captured the fort of St. Mark's and positioned himself in Pensacola. By May of 1818, resistance from the Seminoles and the Spanish was over, at least from the ones who hadn't fled. During this attack, he also captured 2 British subjects, Englishman Robert Ambrister and Scottishman Alexander Arbuthnot, who had been helping the Seminoles. They were given a brief sham trial and both were executed. This execution caused much anger from the British. It was literally called an international incident. And even split President Monroe's cabinet. The land he had taken from Spain was given back, and many called for Jackson to be censored for attacking Spain when no war had been declared from the U.S. against them. But Secretary of State John Quincy Adams defended Jackson as he believes Jackson's actions would force Spain to sell Florida, which they would do in 1819 in the Adams-Onis Treaty. Jackson was exonerated in early 1819 through a congressional investigation. His actions would also be a push for the Seminole Nation to sign the Treaty of Moultrie Creek in 1823, forcing them to hand over most of their land in Florida. No one place that white people tried really hard to tame but could not. Them motherfucking Everglades.
Yep.
The motherfucking Everglades. It's literally like the Everglade band of the Seminoles.
It makes me want to go to the Everglades.
Fucking love the Everglades. No man or woman alive can tame that landscape. They have been trying. We watched that show Rotten, and they were trying to like plant shit down there, and they tried to literally drain the Everglades, and they couldn't.
Yeah.
They couldn't. No matter how much they tried to drain it, it filled right back up.
Yeah.
So, yay, Everglades. Many of Jackson's supporters were pushing him to run for president.
Sometimes Mother Nature won't let you.
That's right.
Watch Oak Island.
They're still struggling. I saw like a preview for a new episode the other day. I was like, you motherfuckers are still out there? You gonna dig up, what was it? Gabriel was like, they're gonna dig up the whole fucking island and there's not gonna be an island left.
Yeah.
Like, pretty much.
Right.
Many of Jackson's supporters were pushing him to run for president, but he claimed to have no desire to do so at first. But he did garner a lot of support and ran and won a seat in the Senate in 1823. In 1824, his boosters had raised enough support. Jackson was nominated for president. It was a 5-candidate race, and Jackson won the popular vote, but there was no majority vote from the Electoral College. Like, nobody won a majority vote in the Electoral College.
Right.
This sent the decision to the House of Representatives. Although there were 3 leading candidates, Jackson, Adams, and William Crawford, Crawford was pretty much out of the race after suffering from a stroke that left him in pretty bad shape. Yeah. Henry Clay, Speaker of the House and 4th place in this race, put his support behind Adams, who would go on to later make Clay his Secretary of State. Gee, never seen that happen since then. Oh, wait.
Right.
That cabinet is more like, what was it I saw the other day? I don't remember what it said, but it was, well, yeah, I don't remember. It was funny as hell, though. It's not a cabinet. I don't know what it is, but it ain't a cabinet.
Right.
Jackson supporters saw this deal as corrupt, and Jackson would end up resigning from the Senate, although he wasn't done with politics just yet. And that, folks, is where we're going to leave you this week. We are literally just halfway through this man's shit.
Wow.
And he does become our 7th president.
Yeah.
So, what do you think of Jackson so far, Bill?
He's a mean man.
Yeah. A mean
sure.
man is
He's
an understatement.
He mean.
He is mean.
I'm looking at a bunch of pictures of him. There's one of like him in a Trump hat, of course. I'm like, and then the one that makes me cackle though is the one that it's kind of like a anime drawing with like this big like smile and teeth, and he's like, I'm like, what the hell? It looks like a Death Note.
Yeah.
You know, Death Note, the Death Note guy.
Yeah.
It looks like somebody combined Andrew Jackson with the Death Note guy. I'm like, what the fuck?
That's creepy as fuck.
It's creepy.
Yeah, Jackson was not a good guy. And like I said, I do feel really, really bad for what he went through in his childhood.
Yeah.
But once he got into a position of power,
just killing people.
killing people. And like, if you're one of those people that's like all like a nationalist, I'm sure Jackson's your guy. Because he was tenacious, would not back down from a fight. He fucking took 5,000 soldiers and beat 10,000 British soldiers who had fucking beat Napoleon.
Yeah.
Like,
That's
You know,
crazy.
he was a badass general. He was a badass colonel. He was a really good soldier. He was a really good fighter. Was not a good person.
People wonder where serial killers come from. This.
Yeah.
Like that's they they weren't serial killers back then. They were generals.
Listen, people like don't realize they think it's like a conspiracy or something, but there are studies that have been done and that are being done that show that there is literally a pipeline that has been formed from military service to law enforcement service to murderer.
Yeah, I could see that.
40% of spouses of law enforcement officers are victims of domestic violence.
Yeah.
40%.
Yeah.
Like, let's not act like, you know,
there aren't signs.
that part. And that's the thing, too. Like, yes, we need soldiers to fight in wars for us. Give them the fucking support they need when they come home.
Yeah.
Give them the support they need when they come
Mentally.
home. We,
Financially.
I guess we need cops on
Healthcare.
some level.
Yeah.
Give cops the money they need so they don't fucking go crooked.
Yeah.
Like one of Patty's friends' parents was a cop in Connecticut. He made $120,000 a year.
Yeah.
Cops here in our town, I literally saw a job posting, $47,000 a year.
Yeah.
$47,000 to be a cop.
Yeah, it's not enough.
It's $13 an hour, folks.
Yeah.
To be a cop. It's not enough. And that's why they go crooked.
Yeah.
And I can't really say I blame them for it.
And there's not enough like mental stuff that goes into that neither. Like
and there isn't. And there is like a danger of,
it's like with our government, you have to be a morally correct person to be in government.
You should be, yes.
I mean, you should, because like you're in charge of a wicked amount of power, and you have to have mental fortitude to, you know,
deal with it.
Navigate through that type of atmosphere.
Yeah. And it's like Heather over on Sinisterhood says, you know, she's a licensed attorney in Texas. And she's like, these people need to be held to a higher standard.
Yeah.
They need to be held to a higher standard. And I think that starts within the hiring and training process. There needs to be a lot more mental evaluations that go into it.
Yeah.
Like, I think there needs to be looking at family history, not just their history.
Yeah.
You need to look at who raised them.
Yeah.
Because if they're raised by a white supremacist,
then 9 times out of 10, that's what their politics are going to be about. Yeah.
9 times out of 10. It doesn't always happen.
Right.
You know, we worked with a guy who was born into the Klan.
Yeah.
He got a card just because his dad was in the Klan, his grandfather was in the Klan.
Yeah.
And he said when they couldn't explain to him why they hated Jews, even though Jesus was a Jew,
yeah,
he said, I'm not going to be in this anymore.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't understand why we hate people that are different.
Yeah.
He didn't. Now, he was one of those that didn't necessarily believe that, like, in mixing races or whatever, but he was like, you're already mixed, so do whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah.
Thanks, buddy. You remember who I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
I
know who you're talking about.
I miss that. He was actually a really good guy, folks. He was a really good guy, even though he's a Klan member, and he actually taught me a lot about the Klan historically, which I didn't know.
It's like one of the guys I knew that he was, you know, he had a lot of those opinions of white supremacy, and he was murdered by the police. Murdered by his own people. Like, what do you know? What, I don't know. Like,
yeah,
that's a different story for a different time, but
it is. It is. But it's kind of like evidence or an example of the fact that, like, the cheetah's gonna eat your face. Like, you may think that you have it tamed And you may think that you have it working on your side, but once they're done coming for people like me, they're going to come for people like you.
Yeah.
Just poor. You're
Yeah.
going to come for the poor people next, and ain't going to give a shit what your skin color looks like.
I mean, that's it. You know?
Money don't care.
Nope.
White supremacy is there, but money don't care.
Yeah.
All right, friends. Well, we hope you found this episode about part of Jackson's life enlightening. Is a lot. Hope you're
Yeah.
tired like I am. Join us next Monday for part 2, and we will see you guys next week.
Love you guys.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.